Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 35th episode of the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast here on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and before we get things rolling this week, I want to welcome back my regular co-hosts. They are the podcast fabulous ones themselves, Josh Briley, and the returning Richard Mulligan of P3 Radio. Oh, well, wait a minute. I may be wrong. Perhaps Richard Mulligan hasn't made it back yet. Who we got here with you, Josh?
I think this is El Mullicano. He jumped on the boat in Mexico in Richard's spot, and Richard's wife took a liking to him. A lot more fun than the real Richard Lee. So that's why he basically was just brought on. They got the gates wide open down there, Gene. You know how it is, man.
Well, I mean, it's not the 20th yet, but we're already getting started.
The boat get over the wall.
Oh, my.
All right, I'm going to stop.
We're not on Patreon anymore, guys. Come on. Oh, my God. It is him. It is the one, the only. Mr. Richard Mulligan. Guys, how you been doing? It's been a couple of weeks since we've all been here together, and it's good to get the team back together, right?
Yeah, the last time I was here, I had a beard, and it ended just the way all beards do, with me looking in a bathroom mirror going, well, shit. So I had to shave it off. I've got like the old goatee. Less gray, though, honestly. If I just shave it all off, but
I thought you young women thinned it, but I realized you thinned it out. That works too.
Yeah, I got something in Mexico, I guess, and my hair just fell out.
He drank he drank well water in Mexico.
Damn it, Richard! What did we say before you left? Well, I gave one piece of advice: don't drink the water. Well, one other piece of advice, but we won't say that on the regular show.
Yeah. Well, good stuff.
Well, before we get going, let's take a moment before we forget, because I mentioned last week on here, even though BT's not one of us, he's sitting in, filling in for you, but he's not one of us wrestling figure nerds. I pointed out the three of us, besides bonding over wrestling and podcast, we bond over the fact that we're all wrestling figure collection nerds. And our good buddy, Del Rios, the Spellbinder, has this awesome wrestling figure out from rushfigures.com. You can pre-order it right now. You can get your very own. Look at that. He's got the top hat and everything. Make sure you get on there and pre-order one of these. I got one on the way. What about you guys?
I got the underwear variant coming. There's one that he has a pair of underwear with him.
I saw that.
Where he pulled out of the guy's tights.
Yeah.
Or
you could just put them on him if you're weird like that. No, it's really cool. Dale sent me a message the other day, and he was like, "Hey, man, I've got this figure coming out." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then he sent me a picture of it. I was like, "Good gosh, that is nice." Because
the black paint with that textured sparkle look, it's really unique, man. I like the way that they did the top hat as well. Just a really badass looking figure. You're gonna look good up on my wall.
Funny story, when I first started wrestling, those tights that he's wearing right there, they gave some to me to wear for a match, and I'm looking like, you realize I'm not a 6'2" muscular guy from Brooklyn, right? I'm a fat guy, and I tried to cover it up and everything, but it did not look good on me. It didn't look as good on me as it does on Dale there. So
you got the call. Hey, Richard, I know you and your friends play with toys. Do me a favor.
Get a couple of them. Do whatever you do with them,
Get the one with the underwear, all right?
Trying to make a push on those.
Another friend of ours, Downtown Bruno's got a figure coming out from the Grapplers and Gimmicks line that I ordered yesterday. So tried to get a picture of that together, but it was the wrong file type. And, we'll try to get one up next week. But it's a pretty cool figure. It looks more like the Harvey Whippleman style of Bruno Lauer. And I'll let you know when that comes in. But, talking about the file types and all that, I've got a lot of stuff going on these days, and it's tough to get everything done that I need to do. Some of you who may remember back to when I did the Cheap Heat TV podcast, I had producer Smokey, who helped me produce the show and, get files changed over if they're the wrong file type, and get these clips together and help prepare the show. And so with all that I've got going on right now, producer Smokey has agreed to come out of retirement. He's going to help us out. And I guess he's pretty fired up about being back in the saddle, guys, because he said he's going to start lining us up special guests each week to come on at the end of the show. And they're going to give their opinion, both of the USWA episode that we're reviewing today, as well as reviewing our work as far as this show goes, because the guests are going to be sitting in the green room, if you will, watching the show as it happens. So if you folks aren't familiar with producer Smokey, he's got a Facebook page. You can go to facebook.com/producer Smokey, I think's what it is. And I'll be sharing it on the USWA page, but yeah, you can go see what he's all about. And I'm excited. I'm not having to do as much today, guys. I'm just kind of can focus on the review and what we're talking about. We'll let old producer Smokey handle bringing up the clips and the pictures and all that. So if things are a little wonky today, folks, give him a break. He's been out of practice. He hasn't done this in a couple of years now, so it may take him a minute. But he's really fired up. He says this is a surprise guest. He's not going to let us know who it is till the end of the show. But he says we're going to be psyched to see this guy, Josh especially, he said. So that should be interesting to see what he's got going. And
surely it's not Miss Simpson. Surely not, right?
Surely not. Yeah, there's a time that we all would have been excited. Well, we won't speak for Richard because he's waiting for us to get Miss Jennifer on as a special guest, if you will. But yeah, if he brings Miss Simpson on at this point, that could get scary really, really quick. Josh, I know you're expecting a really important phone call today that you may have to jump off here and take that call.
I felt like a prick, kind of giving conditions coming on here. I try not to be that guy, but there's really serious thing going on, and I'm awaiting a phone call. So I may have to just jump out.
Hey man, if it comes, jump off, do what you need to do. Me and Richard will handle this thing. I'm quite sure. Now, speaking of Richard, I'm assuming you didn't see the show the past couple of weeks, be it the USWA show or our show, which I can promise you, BT is cussing you right now. You agree to that statement?
I was on a boat. I'm on a boat. I was on a boat.
At any rate, to bring you up to speed real quick, while you were gone, the Vampire Warriors stole the Unified World Title Belt and the USWA Southern Title Belt from Lawler and Jarrett, respectively. But then he turned around and actually won the USWA Southern Heavyweight Dinner Platter from Jeff Jarrett last week. So he actually has that outright now. Perhaps the Fabulous One was too distracted with going to visit random country singers like Mickey Gilley and Ricky Van Shelton, which is a real thing that he's been doing recently that you lucked up and missed out on. Gentleman Chris Adams has shown up here in the USWA looking for his cheating wife, as he put it, who he found at ringside with Brian Christopher, and that got interesting real fast. So we're going to see how that continues to play out for us here. Luckily for him, though, Eddie Marlin had no issue immediately booking a guy who didn't work for the USWA and just wandered in off the street to ringside during a match. Had no problem booking him into a match that Monday night and having a graphic ready within about 20 minutes. So go figure, right? And I know you won't believe this, but that match actually resulted in a double count out. Yeah. So nothing has been resolved there. So I assume we will see more of Chris, Toni, and Brian in the future here. And I saved the best for last because I know you're going to be super psyched about this, Richard. Richard Lee and the babyface Moondogs are back once again, and they are feuding with your favorite tag team of C.W. Bergstrom and Melvin Penrod Jr., who, since you have been gone, have won the USWA Tag Team Championships from Simply Divine. There's no sign of the thong-wearing duo in the USWA at this very moment. But, yeah, that happened. Oh, and I said save the best for last, but also the Disco Inferno has had a couple of matches with Miss Texas. 1 week he was the intergender world champion. The next week there was no mention of it. So, nothing, not all that much has changed while you've been gone.
No. Uncle Danny disappeared.
I was going to say, much like you, Uncle Danny has been missing in action the last couple of weeks.
Was it Uncle Danny's belt? Is that what happened? That's why he disappeared.
It may have been. All I know is, around the time that Vampire Warrior was stealing the singles heavyweight titles, And then Bergstrom and Penrod won the tag team belts. And Disco was scheduled to wrestle Uncle Danny for the middleweight title. So you have to assume, all right, Disco is going to grab that one for a clean sweep. Suddenly, Uncle Danny's like, fuck a bunch of that. You're not getting my belt. You're not getting my Camaro. I'm not coming to town. So, yeah,
would have been hilarious if in his acceptance speech of the car, he's like, now that I got this new car, I can drive my ass out of this territory.
I can drive to a territory that actually pays.
Love you, Memphis. Mean it. I'm getting out of here.
Payments are going to be pretty high on this car.
Nightmare out. I mean, there's no payments because I want it outright. So that's a brief synopsis of what you've missed since you've been gone, Richard. Any of that you want to comment on quickly before we move on?
If I was the yeast infection connection, I probably would have left too, knowing that was the two tag teams I had to contend with.
No, they disappeared. They Jimmy Hoffa.
I would have too if I had to fight the Penrod and the what was it? The Moondogs. Yeah, I almost said the Bulldogs. What the hell's wrong with me? I forgot the word round last night. Round. While I was announcing a fight, I was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, the referee has called a stop to this match in the first." And I couldn't think of round
time where they fight.
And then there was a pause for what felt like 20 minutes. It's probably really like 4 seconds.
They're going.
You're like,
circle, the first circle of this fight.
I was like, declaring your winner by knockout. But yeah, I don't know. It's either COVID or CTE's finally catching up with me. And but yeah, I forgot the word.
He started
round.
Buffering on catch.
Well, Mr. Blitz did take some hits to the head in that one match. So
yeah, a lot of them.
So let's head back to July 31st, 1993 for some USWA Championship Wrestling. Show kicks off in the usual way with Dave Brown and Corey Macklin letting us know what we can expect on today's show. And Dave teases something very, very special is coming up. But we'll see how that plays out. Let's get right to it. After the initial commercial break, we're coming in hot as Dave lets us know the big match is coming up, and they even have a special green screen graphic that lets you know this truly is a big match.
Wonder who drew that.
The clips from the King of the Ring of '93 of Bret winning and then being confronted by Jerry Lawler, and boy, has the USWA went to the well a number of times on that footage since the King of the Ring. Wow. Anyway. So then we head over to the ring for our very first match of the day. It's going to be Gentleman Chris Adams taking on Mr. Clyde. That's right, Mr. Clyde, who'd been away for a bit. He is suddenly back, and this poor bastard has to wrestle Gentleman Chris Adams. And so Mr. Clyde, he's kind of feeling himself. He's coming back. He's shoving Chris Adams a couple times in the beginning, and finally Adams is like, fuck that, and goes to town on Mr. Clyde. Once the match gets going, we see Toni Adams, a.k.a. Miss Simpson, over at the curtain. She's watching the match. She's looking distraught. She's not having a good time. After a few moments, Brian Christopher puts a stop to that. And back in the ring, Adams toys with Mr. Clyde for a moment before super kicking the shit out of him and getting the win. Holy, was it just me or did that look rough?
No. He was a legit karate guy. I mean, I'm not sure which judo, I believe.
Judo champion.
Was. Yeah, so that's a little he different. Was not foreign to the martial art, and that looked like some sort of competition type kick, not a working kick. He was taking out all his frustrations of Brian Christopher and his, I don't know if it's his current wife or, whatever's going on, but he took all that out on poor Mr. Clyde.
He's into karate, so he had a blackout, and Mr. Clyde's face become those boards at the, and he was like, all I see is an orange Julius outside this mall. I got to break that board up there. And he kicked the shit out of Mr. Clyde.
And that would even a good angle to really tell just how hard he kicked him. But even from that angle, you could tell he kicked the shit out of him. If we'd have got it from around the other side, we really could have told. But the look on Frank Morrell doesn't sell much. The look on Frank Morrell's face as he went down for the count, told the story. So
all you could really see is the back of Mr. Clyde's head snap, and it was like that whole back into the left, back into the left. But yeah, that was where you saw the impact. You really didn't see the kick, but you just saw his hair just tussle really quickly. It's like nobody touched it, so I was like, "Ooh, that ain't good."
I knew when Chris Adams did the gallop for the windup, it was done.
For all the people who laugh and joke about, the Young Bucks and their super kick parties and these silly super kicks where they're slapping the shit out of their leg and say that the super kick's not a believable thing, go back and watch Chris Adams. At one time, the super kick was a very believable thing. He made sure it was. But afterwards, we get a short promo from Chris Adams, and I want us to check this out, as I find it funny that he assumes that it's going to be super relatable to the fans, what he's talking about here. And sadly, it probably is, but let's give it a quick listen.
Well, you really put him away there today, no doubt about it. You were in control.
Well, thank you. Being in professional wrestling is really being in control. If you're going to be successful at this business, you should be in control. But I'm not really in control when it comes to my family. And that's the whole reason that I am here. I'm sure you people out there can really understand my feelings when you see someone like that Brian Christopher Punk with my wife, that I had no idea what was happening. Here's me, I send her alimony, I send her money, I send her everything each week, and she's spending it on that punk Brian Christopher. Brian Christopher, you don't mess with somebody's family, because I know I have everybody behind me. Everybody that's been cheated on, everybody that's had their husband or wife mess around on them, they're with me, because right now I'm sure they understand how I feel. Brian Christopher, don't mess with me, and furthermore, don't mess with my family.
There's gentleman Chris Adams right there with a word. Chris, I know you'll get a chance to see him later on, and again, congratulations on the victory here today.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, we'll be back with more from the USWA after this.
So in theory, we don't know, Chris Adams that well in Memphis. He's never wrestled here, but they keep saying everybody knows who Chris Adams is, but they assume that it's going to be super relatable, that everybody in Memphis has probably been cheated on. And he goes, if you've ever had your husband or wife fool around on you, then you know how I feel. And he's all look at that face right there. Oh, he's he is so mad. What do you guys think about this promo, and how relatable do you feel like it is for everybody?
So it would be relatable, but I just bird dogged on the fact that he said he's been sending her alimony and money as well. And I'm like, you don't do that unless you're separated and divorced.
Maybe alimony means a different thing in England. You know how you have some words that mean different things? Maybe it means a different thing in England.
Nah. I think he just thinks that the general public doesn't know what they're talking about. And I just, I don't know. I got confused because I'm like, okay, if you're divorced and you're wanting to win her back, present it as that. But just, if you're already divorced and you're just like mad because she's with another wrestler now, and you're sending her alimony and then she's spending it on Brian, that's.
What's funny is a year later, OJ's going to go the heel route with the same gimmick.
OJ sitting home going, yeah, Chris, yeah. I get it.
I could take a head off, but not with the super kick.
Somebody need to do something about this.
Yeah, no, I hate it when people talk, and when they look and they're doing their interview, they look up like this. Like they're looking at something in the ceiling.
Like they're reading it off their eyelids or something.
Yeah. And he did that for the first half. Let me tell you something, Dave Brown. And I'm like, what is he looking at up there?
You're like, has Chris Adams never been in a studio that has lights before? Because he seems freaking amazing.
He's got whatever disease Sabu has.
Yeah, He had a weird incident in like a school play once where a light fell, so now he doesn't trust
He's
him.
all scared. Who rigged up these lights in here, Dave?
You got that bulb over there.
I was in the middle of the tempest and a light fell. Now I can't get over it.
He always felt like for his shoot job, Sabu must have like check bulbs for a living. He's like right there.
That's your problem.
It's only 35 watts.
Got it.
You could replace that with an LED.
Yeah, that's a great point there. That I assume when he came in, they're like, well, look, we got to refer to her as your wife because nobody's really gonna, sympathize with a guy who's coming to try to win back his wife who left him, especially if they know about you guys' history of issues. So let's just refer to her as your wife and let's just make it sound like she's run off with Brian Christopher. And he's like, okay. But then he decides, we'll bring some reality into it. And we'll mention alimony and shit. Like, all right, well, you just gave the story away. You guys aren't still married if you were sending her alimony.
Right.
Then again, it's Memphis. How many people are really going to piece that together, I guess?
They don't have alimony in Memphis. It's
exactly.
I mean, they don't know what that
dog,
is.
but he just walked away.
So, like I say, Richard, you wasn't here so Chris Adams shows up and he comes out and this is my wife and blah, blah, blah. And the way they went into it, which I thought was a pretty good hook to get people to come to the Coliseum. They let us know that, this is Chris Adams. He's a well-known wrestler. He doesn't work here, but apparently this is his wife. So when they put the screen graphic up for the match, it says Brian Christopher with Miss Simpson, ? Versus Chris Adams with Toni Adams, ? And the whole hook was, whose corner is she going to be in? Is she gonna be with Chris? Is she gonna be with Brian? We don't know. Which I thought was pretty good, way to be like, oh shit, we got to go see this. Whose corner is she gonna be in? Of course, nothing was resolved with that match, obviously, and I get that. You don't bring somebody in for a hot angle and immediately have either one of them get beat. So that's the move, and that's the reason. I'm so critical of all the DQs and the countouts and the run-ins and all that shit because we go to that well so often in moments like this match where it was necessary and the right call. It feels just like more of the same, and it takes away the effectiveness of it, at least in my opinion. But we talked about here on the show, me and Josh and BT, about how we're getting back to what works in Memphis, personal issues. Everybody talks about that sign in Jerry Jarrett's office, personal issues draw money. And for the first time in a while here, we have something that people can sink their teeth to and be like, oh my God, this is this dude's, Brian's messing around with this guy's wife. We got to see how this plays out. What's your take on it, Richard? Do you think this is one of the better angles we've had coming up, or is it eye rolling because he's looking at the ceiling and he's saying,
yeah, I feel like it could be a little bit like I don't really care about it because the way it's been done already, you can kind of tell. There's been some cues there. The person I feel really bad about though, because like I said, I've been away for 2 weeks, and in that time they corrected themselves and said, Toni Adams, Miss Simpson, Toni Adams, but they're making an effort to try to call her Toni Adams, right? And
it depends on who they're referring with her to. They're pretty much splitting her and being like, well, just to Chris, she's Toni Adams. To Brian, she's Miss Simpson. So,
but
we don't know what to call her.
Yeah. So, but the person that I've been really feeling bad for was fucking Johnny Polo, because he was trying for weeks to get them to call him something other than Scotty Flamingo, and they just outright refused. And it's like, but this woman comes along and, they, oh yeah, call her what she wants to be called, but not Johnny Polo. So yeah, that was the part I was like, wait, they're totally abandoning this name or like, how did that come about? But yeah, it sounds like they didn't really have much of a plan for that.
And she was worse off because Corey even threw a third name in there. Jennifer Simpson. I mean, Miss Simpson. I mean, Toni Adams. What this bitch's name? I don't remember.
I still just randomly will shout that in my house sometimes. Jennifer Simpson. I love it.
That cracked me up so much that he didn't get these two blonde white, didn't realize these were two different blonde white women, that it wasn't the same one who was just out here in a maid outfit, and now she's going to be doing the 900. They're getting a lot of work out of this lady.
What they paying her?
Have her come by my house and do some cleaning, if you know what I mean. So we take a break, and when we return, once again, we are hard selling the big match between Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler. As of now, we see highlights of a WWF match between Lawler and Owen Hart, where Lawler won, and then he cut a promo afterwards. So what do you guys think of this? We've got this big match, Lawler and Bret Hart signed, which is arguably maybe the biggest match, certainly the biggest match of the year. I mean, Randy Savage was a big deal, but by that point, he was an announcer on WWF as far as, current fans go. Bret Hart, he was the tippy top of the WWF. You couldn't bring in a bigger star. This would have been like bringing, Hulk Hogan to the Mid-South Coliseum in 1985. What do you think so far? We're really pushing this. We got a freaking green screen wall up that Dave has to run over and stand in front of after every commercial. We're showing all these WWF clips. What are you thinking so far?
I'm excited, and I remember during this time being I was weirdly excited because we hadn't seen heel Bret Hart since WrestleMania 4. In my eyes, that's when he became a babyface in my eyes. So that's a long time ago. And just to see him cutting the heel type promo, talking about the people of Memphis and all that kind of stuff, I remember thinking, I like Bret Hart, but this is awesome. I know, and in my little mind, I justified it as he just don't like Memphis and Jerry Lawler. That's what it is, and that's why he's getting away with this. He's still a good guy in my eyes. It's just he doesn't like Memphis and Lawler. So, but I was extremely excited, and it just kind of threw that back on me, gave me that perspective again, and just being the age that I am now, I'm like, wow, business is about to really pick up because some highlights are going to be awesome, because I always enjoyed a Bret Hart Lawler match.
And I think they may have learned their lesson with Macho Man. Macho Man, they brought him in and he didn't play a heel the first time around. He was just Macho Man here to call out Jerry Lawler. And from, what I read up on, Savage was getting a babyface response in the matches, both, in Memphis, Nashville, and I think he did maybe Louisville too. And it kind of split the crowd. So then the next time in, they had Sherry, they attacked him in the studio, and we started making Savage a heel. So this time, even though we're showing footage that clearly paints Lawler as the heel, Bret gets in here, and we're going to see this promo in a little bit that we keep referring to, where, Bret takes some shots at Memphis, comes off kind of arrogant, which Bret could come off arrogant even in his babyface promos a lot of times. And I think they're playing it right to have him coming in as a heel, a strong heel. But we'll come back to that. As like I say, this is going to be a theme throughout the show. And we'll return to our usual formula because we saw Chris Adams the last segment. So, of course, that means we got to see Brian Christopher in this segment, right? So our next match is Brian Christopher with Miss Simpson taking on Mitch Ryder. And Mitch Ryder was a well-known star of the Midwestern indie scene, or at least he would be in the late 90s and into the 2000s. Fun to see him pop up, in the USWA here. Miss Simpson continues to sell the situation as she no longer seems happy to be here. She's just distraught at ringside. Brian, on the other hand, is beyond his normal self. He is overly exaggerated in his Brianness today. He's having a great time. So we'll see how that plays out. Fun little match here between Christopher and Ryder. Then Chris Adams comes out. He starts pointing at his ring finger to Miss, I guess when he's talking to her, it's Toni, and trying to shame his wife for managing her boyfriend while he's paying alimony. And then things get out of hand, and let's check out a little bit of this action here of what happened once Chris Adams appears at ringside during this match with Brian Christopher and Mitch Ryder.
Wedding band that he still wears, and he's talking to Miss Simpson. I don't know if it's going to do any good. Christopher is telling referee Frank Morrell to get Chris Adams out of here. Oh, and Chris and Miss Simpson go walking toward the dressing room, and Christopher grabs her arm, and he knows Chris Adams. at gentleman Chris Adams. Hey, Chris fought it back. Oh, boy. Chris Adams and Brian Christopher going at it. Right on the floor and in the crowd. Chris throws him. Oh, boy, this one all in the audience here. Yeah, we've got to get this one broken up here. And Miss Simpson is over here. Just showed her. She's just over there, Dave, and I think she is just still confused.
Yeah, she just broken into tears and obviously doesn't know where her allegiances lie at this particular point. But Brian Christopher and gentleman Chris Adams have been separated. Frank Morrell is also in between them. They're trying to get him to get Brian out of here.
Hey, there goes Chris.
Look, yeah, he's broken free, and he's got Brian again over there in the near the door.
Mr. Cloud looking confused as hell. Like, what's going on? Is the match over?
Where am I?
Going?
Yeah, I thought I was supposed to wrestle today. What? So of course, fight broke out. The match just sort of dissipates, and we end up in somewhat of a pull apart here. But here's what caught my eye, and you didn't see it in this particular clip. But did you guys notice in your original viewing of it who suddenly appeared on camera that we have not seen in the USWA this entire year that we've been doing this?
No.
Oh,
yeah. I did see that. I thought you were talking about a wrestler.
It's BT's friend.
Yeah. So that's right. Randy Hales seems to be back, and honestly, I'm pretty happy to see him here. We've talked about how the booking has been lackluster for a while now, that, whoever in charge has seemingly been asleep at the wheel, it feels like. And people give Randy a lot of shit about different things, and we have some fun with Randy here on the show at times. But, over the years, Randy Hales has booked some great stuff. It hasn't all been great, but he does put a lot of thought and effort into it. And it seems to me this could be a good sign that he's seemingly back in the fold here in 93. And could that be why we're seeing some of the structure we're starting to see here with them really plugging the big match? And are we maybe going to stop seeing so many run-ins and DQs? I don't know, but it just caught my eye. I was like, whoa, is that Randy Hales? Like, yeah, I was like, he hasn't been here. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that makes a change in things, or if the changes we're already starting to see, if maybe he has a hand in that, or maybe he's not actually booking anything. Maybe he's just kind of here, helping out. But I thought that was interesting. So there's a couple of shots of how upset Miss Simpson is during all this. Clearly,
she's like, I don't know who I am.
This actually works out though, because when I'm talking with my fake British accent, I'm Chris's wife Toni. And then when it goes away, or is it the other way around? Is it the accent's Miss Simpson, and then when it goes away, I'm Toni Adams from Texas? I don't know anymore.
If 90s sitcoms taught me anything, I would say that she's involved in some kind of weird domestic with Chris Adams. Every time she shows him, she's like, like, oh God, he's going to super kick the shit out of me as soon as she looks distraught, not like trying to decide between two lovers, but just knowing that kick is coming.
She's like, where's the nearest exit?
She looks like me. Well, not me, because, my dad took off, but she looks like every kid when they heard, wait till I tell your daddy. And then they have to think about that belt whipping they're going to get, when dad gets home.
Forget 90s sitcoms. If Police Reports from Dallas, Texas has taught us anything, she's been involved in a domestic with Chris Adams or two.
Yeah.
There's a reason she fled to Memphis and not happy that she thought when she took on this assumed identity of the maid, Miss Simpson, he'll never find me here. This TV don't go outside of Memphis.
So they're painting Chris Adams as the baby face, guy that's been done wrong, and really he's walked right through that restraining order.
He's the stalker.
Somehow gotten past witness protection because she changed her name, moved to a new city, and he's like following her. So
and Eddie Marlin's like, come on in, we'll put you in a match Monday.
Hey, how are you driving the ring truck? Just question, really. You said sleep at the wheel earlier, and that's immediately what I thought.
That's how we came to that conclusion when they wrecked the ring truck. Like, they are literally asleep at the wheel here. Oh, man. So after that, of course, we had to take another break and get things under control. And we come back, we get this Bret Hart promo that we've referenced a couple times. And I don't have a lot of clips for this show, believe it or not. But I do think it is, if anything from this show should be shown, we do need to check out this Bret Hart promo, because I do feel it really sets the tone for the big match coming up Monday night.
So I want to give you a little brief synopsis of things here. You know, this Monday night when I come to Memphis, I'm going to settle a few scores. One of them is with Jerry, the so-called King Lawler. Here's a guy on national TV that's had the nerve and the gall to walk out and just declare himself the king. Well, I got a little dispute with that. I'm the king. I earned it. I did it. And Jerry Lawler and all you southern people in Memphis are going to find out the hard way that the Hitman, the excellence of execution, is everything he says he is. I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And all you people in Memphis, you can go ahead and crowd around Jerry Lawler and pretend that he's the king, but he's not. You people in Memphis, you know what we have here? What we have here is a failure to communicate. Because the communication problem is between you and me. I'm the best one in the world. I'm the king, and I've proved it time in and time out. Now, what he's done with my brother Owen makes me sick. It makes me sick that all you people can crowd around Jerry Lawler and believe in a guy like this. Because this guy is no king. This guy is a nobody. He's always been a nobody. And when I get to Memphis, all you southern hick people are going to find out that the Hitman means business. Jerry Lawler, I don't care how you get to the ring, but I can promise one thing. You'll be carried out. And all your little good people in Memphis, you can crowd around Jerry Lawler just like you crowd around Elvis, because there'll be a big memorial for him. Because he will be what you call ancient history. When I get to Memphis this Monday night, you can watch the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. And you can watch Jerry Lawler go down, because he is not anything compared to the best one there was, the best one there is, the Hitman.
That was clearly done in one take, because there are a couple of hiccups there that you think, wait a minute. But we just forged on ahead and kept it going. Oh, you little people around Memphis there gather around Jerry Lawler. And he said his line at the end out of order. So he just drops the last. The best there was, the best. Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, we crowded around Jerry Lawler. I told Josh, I was like, if you listen to this, it kind of sounds like a drunk uncle, like leaving a voicemail that, you know, he found out you like wrestling, but the only wrestler he knows is Jerry Lawler. So he's like, yeah, what we have here is a failure to communicate, that which was way out of left field.
Yeah, that was.
It's like he tried it on and he's like, I can't do that again. And he never did it again. But yeah, like it sounded like the ramblings of a drunk man talking about Jerry Lawler, you know, like as the king and stuff. Like if you had no idea what was going on, you'd be like, what the hell is this man talking about?
Well, like I talked about earlier, though, I liked this. I really took the role of the spoiler during that one, huh? Like just
BT would be proud, but that's cool.
I totally. I thought the promo was during that time, but either way, yeah, I like this. I mean, it really, really puts over the fact that whether you want to believe it or not, he is a heel in Memphis. That's the way they're going to paint this and make him. And he tried to put that stamp on it because, like we talked about, the Savage, it was he might be, he might not be. He's not really being clear.
Yeah,
and then
he's putting a headlock on Hunger,
right? So yeah, you can't really heel out with a charity shirt on, right? It's just not good. But either way,
in front of a big fountain. Out in
yeah,
right.
That's why I wish Bret would have been like standing in front of the same fountain that Savage did, because he's actually in the studio here. He's got his got his curtain behind him. But I was like, yeah, we should have got Bret in front of the fountain. But I liked it too. But you could tell it definitely wasn't like your typical, Vince McMahon produced promo, because there was too many hiccups in there that, screw it, pal, it's just Memphis, send it on, but there was enough hiccups there they'd been like, all right, we got to reshoot that. But no, it's just going to Memphis. We don't give a shit. Send it on. That'll piss them off. And I just feel like Vince was like, you need to do a Southern accent, pal. And Bret's like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then once he gets to doing it, Vince is over like,
yeah, I did it on Lonesome Dove all the time.
Everybody believed I was Southern on there. Not from Calgary. So we go straight from Bret Hart to Bert Prentice being joined by the Vampire Warrior and Luna Vachon. Bert puts over the big match and promotes Vampire Warrior, and then pitches to Luna, asking her what she's going to do to Bubba Johnson. That's right, Richard. We're back to referencing Bubba Johnson here with Bert Prentice and Miss Texas. Luna still sounds like she's been gargling razor blades. I'll never know how she manages to do that voice the way she did through an entire promo. But she's definitely unique, to say the least. Is she not?
Yeah, I always was afraid of Luna when I was a kid. She came across as that, truck driving. Yeah. Like, you felt like she just ripped balls off for fun. Like, that's what her only, look at her. She's scary.
Big time Mad Max vibes.
Yeah.
Like, just like what Richard said, you would never, ever want to cross this woman. Like, she would rip your head off. And I had saw stuff with her and Kevin Sullivan too, so I was extremely afraid of her.
Yeah. I feel like, though, if somebody showed you the Vampire Warrior and like, all right, now conjure up and picture in your mind what you think his wife would look like. That's pretty close to what you'd come up with, right? I mean, they seem like the perfect couple. I don't know how that didn't work out in the long run, but somehow it didn't.
I remember in WWE, they showed their wedding photos. Was it WWE? Like on a Saturday morning show. And I was like, you know what? That just fits.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I was like, I know true love and I know what it looks like. And it looks like that right there. Because that guy found someone just as odd as her, as him.
Yeah, so. My goodness. Yeah, they were definitely meant to be. Match number 3, USWA Southern Heavyweight Champion, the Vampire Warrior with Bert Prentice and Luna Vachon in his corner, takes on Tom Winters. Now, I don't recall us seeing Tom Winters here before, and he gets quite an introduction to Memphis wrestling here. As facing the Vampire Warrior, he is constantly getting thrown out of the ring and having the ever-loving shit kicked out of him by Luna. It had to be one of the only times where you're like, oh, God, throw me back in the ring so I can get beat up by a vampire. He was vicious on him most of the time out there. And at one point, I think he wanted this to be over with so badly. I don't know if you guys caught this, but Vampire Warrior gives Winters a belly-to-belly suplex that Corey called a power slam, of course. He covered Winters and then jumped off him to make it look like Winters kicked out when he clearly didn't kick out. See, Vampire Warrior jumped off of him and fall to the side.
It looked like he struggled to get him up for that too, so I don't know if there was some lack of communication going on.
They had a failure to communicate.
That's why it looked so weird, and he just wanted to get out. He's like, I'll lay here, just pin me.
He gets thrown out of the ring again for about the second or third time, so Luna can kick the shit out of him. Yeah. While Bert Prentice distracts the referee, and even Corey's like, "That's nothing necessary." Poor man.
Referee's like, "You've been wrestling a dead man for the past 2 minutes." Is that why he didn't kick out? Yeah.
You pin that corpse and get this over with. He eventually puts him away with a rough-looking DDT, and I'm sure the guy was just proud this shit was over.
Yeah. Wish I wouldn't have told my mom I was on TV this week. Shit.
They go put that man on the prayer list.
Yeah.
So, Richard, you were around for some of those backstage meetings when they were putting the card together. And if you were back there in 1993 and they were like, all right, you can either wrestle in the first match against Chris Adams and take a super kick from this guy who's clearly not all there, or you can come out in the fourth match, wrestle the Vampire Warrior, who's going to have Luna in his corner. And just a heads up, he's going to throw you out there to Luna a couple of times. clearly she's not all there either. I don't know. You going to take the one super kick and hope for the best, or are you just going to, get mauled by two different people here? I guess we'll take the one super kick, right?
Yeah, because you're not going to remember it. It's like I'm pretty sure Chris Adams is going to kick that memory right out of my head. So I mean, I'll see it on video and I'll be like, oh, that looks painful, and they'll be like, yeah, that was you, and I'll be like, damn, that does look like me. What was I doing? But with the Luna thing, no, I feel like that was just a prolonged beating. It's kind of like, do you want, when your dad comes home and you're about to get whipped, do you want one lick or you want 47? No, I'm going to take the one, even though it's going to be with the buckle in the head. I'm going to take the one.
So as we go to the commercial break here, we're going to spoil it like BT, but of all the vicious shit that Luna did to this poor bastard out on the floor, they take a clip of the weakest looking thing she did and made this the commercial bumper. I'm always amazed at how they drop them all on these freaking commercial bumpers. But check this out as we go to our very first podcast commercial break of the day.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school, but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jarrett, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Of all the things, the least impressive thing, that's what they showed going into the commercial.
And they cut it right before a vicious kick that she delivered.
Yeah. It pissed her off when if she went back and saw that, whoever got it from her next, she made sure, next week, I'm sure if she's back there in the corner, somebody's going to get it through the whole match because she's going to make sure everything's proper for the highlight reel. So
now, had she started back with WWE at this time? She was with them, right?
93.
That's when she was Bam Bam's main squeeze.
I was just about to say, I think this was around the era of Bam Bam. I'm pretty sure of it. So I couldn't swear to it, but I'm surprised they didn't bring Bam Bam in as well. But I don't know. I have to look that up and see. I'll try to know that by next week.
I'm pretty sure like by 93 she was there.
Well, I know it was 93. I just don't know what point. Like I want to say it was like in May.
Wasn't she with Bam Bam at the King of the Ring with Bret?
See, I don't think she was. I'm thinking maybe they saw her here and this is how she got there. But gotcha. I don't know that to be true. But I know
definitely gonna look.
Yeah, that seems to be how this plays out a lot of times. Is somebody pops up, looks like Scotty pops up on TV, and then he gets a job out of it. So, but if she wasn't, I don't know where she was at prior to this, other than she had been in that Herb Abrams UWF a couple of years before this. So we return to a promo from the King. He's standing out in front of the Mid-South Coliseum. I think we got a shot of that producer Smokey. Yes, we do. And he talks about how more people have come to see him in the Mid-South Coliseum than any other act that's performed there. He forgot to add, not in recent years, but in the distant past. A lot of people came to see the King right there.
Yeah, that shot was taken right before the Monday night show.
Oh, God help us. But good promo from the King here. I don't know. I don't remember it. I didn't clip it. But I remember, that was good enough.
I thought we've talked about it before, but I thought it was funny that he references Bret calling himself the King or whatever, and he said just because, and he pulls on his own shirt saying they had some rinky-dink tournament, and then you call yourself a king. I'm like, we've talked about it. You're promoting the rinky-dink tournament when you wear that shirt.
Could you pop that picture back up? I had a funny thought. Like, one of the sell jobs for your wrestling promotion shouldn't be convenient parking.
You literally can park anywhere out here.
Every spot's a handicap spot, basically.
Come on down. But yeah, standing in an empty parking lot of a building is a great way to sell everybody on how many people you've packed in it over the years.
Yeah,
you can't tell it right now. This is a Tuesday, by the way.
I feel like every intention was, hey guys, if we come down there, will y'all let us in the building? What do you mean the guy's sick? Well, you got nobody with the key? No. Well, hell, I'll do it from the parking lot, I guess.
Yep. So he's selling the match, and again, we've come back, from the break. Each segment, we've had something promoting that match, which I think is a good way to do it. We seem to be getting our shit together here this week. We'll see as we move along. But then they run down the card for this week's Monday night. We're not going to talk about it now. We'll save it to the end. But I did want to make mention of one thing that felt odd. I didn't think much of it when they put the graphic up and it said Jamie Dundee. They alternate between calling him JC Ice and Jamie Dundee. So that didn't seem odd. But what did seem odd is when they put Randy Rocket versus Kelly Wolf on the screen rather than Wolfie D. At no point have we ever referred to him on television as Kelly Wolf, but there it is on the screen. I don't know, not a big deal. Just
it's odd. Weirdly odd. It's like, okay, they disappear for all that amount of time. They're just phantom babyface turn before they leave. They come back, they're just heels. Here you are, your heels again. You've had an attitude change again. And we're going to call you by your real names the second week. That's just seems like they're being like weirdly punished. Like, I don't know what a Wolfie D is. I know what a Kelly Wolf is. And I'm just going to put on a fucking graphic.
It sounds like somebody that makes chili, though, doesn't it?
Kelly Wolf chili.
Yeah, while you were gone, Richard, PG-13 just showed back up. We didn't promote it. We didn't make a big fuss out of it. There was an attack at the beginning of the show. They ran out and helped split it up. And then in the main event of the show, they were tagging with Disco Inferno. And like Josh said, they just suddenly reappear after weeks of not being there. And now they're suddenly heels again. No explanation. No where they've been. I mean, they could have made something up, said they've been in Japan or something. I don't know. But no, they're just back. And what I find funny about that is having found out the truth behind that. BT, I think, talked to Wolfie D about it. And I guess they'd gotten a little too big for their britches, and they had showed up late for some towns and no-showed some towns, so they got fired. Meanwhile, Uncle Danny's no-showing the main card for the last 3 Monday nights. He's on the card for this Monday night again.
I seen that. I was like, well, we'll try it again. Disco Inferno.
Clearly, they got a little more stock in Uncle Danny than they do Jamie Dundee and Kelly Wolf.
You guys gave me a damn lemon. This thing won't crank for shit.
All right, come on back. No, for your belt. You can keep your belt. Come on. You sure?
Yeah.
He steals this belt. I swear to God. No. So next up on the show, I guess Jarrett's well has run dry on country singer friends for this week. So Jeff Jarrett is talking to a hockey coach. I admittedly, for the first time throughout this, I fast forwarded through this guy talking.
Can I be honest? Can I be just brutally honest right
please
here?
do.
So when I was watching this last night, I thought that this was like a Make-A-Wish segment, and this was like a special kid that had won some kind of deal, and he wanted to meet Jeff, and that was what the segment was. Jeff talking to this kid, the sick kid that he gets to meet, and then I realized he's just some old Yankee.
Yeah, I mean, because when you look at this picture, if you're watching the video cast, and if you're not, you should check it out. You see this picture, you didn't think this is the coaches of the, even if it's the Memphis Showboats, you still would have thought this was, like a special needs kind of dude. But no, he's here. He's talking about hockey and all this stuff. I fast forward towards, we get to the payoff. We see Jeff out there guarding the goal for a few shots, and then he takes off the helmet, and this guy walks up like, "Gee, Jeff, you really are fabulous," which is the payoff to all these damn shitty segments as we just get to the point where we can go, "Jeff, you're fabulous."
He's like, "Now, Steve, now I'm all right."
They shoehorned the shit out of Slapshot.
Yeah, and then they just show that movie clip just out of nowhere.
It's like, I've seen Slapshot, and then it just cuts to a 30, what felt like forever, clip, 30-second clip of Slapshot.
It was almost as long as that Colin Scott video.
And they didn't even reference it. They never reference.
Well,
I've seen Slapshot, and then they just show Slapshot.
So was that guy that he was talking to, was that one of the fellas in Slapshot?
No. I guess it's just the only movie that references hockey. I don't know.
They could have shown Mighty Ducks or some shit. That was hot during that time period.
You would think we're here to promote the movie Slapshot more than we were the hockey team that he coaches. It was so, like you said, shoehorned was the perfect word for it, because it was just absolutely shoehorned in. Like, we got to get Slapshot in here somehow. It's not even relevant to the conversation. And here's Slapshot.
So when I was a kid, I would take videos on VCR and like dub things together and put music to them and stuff, make my own little music videos. I think we all kind of did that. And I remember thinking, some of this shit's awesome. And like, I looked at this video and I'm like, this is why I thought that. Because growing up, I saw shit like this. And I'm like, well, hell, I can do this.
If this is the standard, then shit.
I'm making a music video and halfway through, Darkwing Duck pops up and was like, well, why'd you do that? Well, it was just an editor's choice. That was like, it wasn't a fuck up. I meant for it to happen.
That's what I was feeling at the time.
Well, when you used to get those pay-per-view tapes that people would record, but they would record over something else. So you would see like the first 30 seconds of whatever. That's what it felt like here. I had an uncle that recorded me one time, and all you just see is a girl, anyways, for 30 seconds before it's the Royal Rumble. I was more interested in what was going on those 30 seconds
like,
before.
What a ride it was to the Royal Rumble.
Why does it make me tingle in my special place that Royal Rumble's happening?
This is a weird place to mention this, but I feel like it's almost appropriate based on what all you've just said. But recently on one of my retro wrestling review shows on YouTube, where Steve Pleasing, a.k.a. Delbert Jenkins, was on there, and we were reviewing an episode of Portland Wrestling. And I don't know how this came about. This may have been after the show. But anyway, he mentioned that he used to have a satellite, and he'd record porn off the satellite. So he had a couple friends that would ask for tapes of it. So to rib this one friend, he said he goes and he puts the porn on there for about as long as he figured it would take him to get where he needed to be, and then it cut to like a kid's show, right? So he can feel like a freaking pervert the rest of his life.
Oh, that's great.
And that friend's name was Master of Terror. But anyway,
I had a friend that would make little videos like that it was like scared deer. Like, it would flip back and forth. I don't know who that was.
Like their mom would come through the room at random times.
All of a sudden we're watching an infomercial about coins. It's like, what the hell is this?
You're like, is that Joey Styles selling coins?
Richard's like, I get a little tingle to this day when I see certain coins.
Right.
Fun fact, during that time period, I did record an infomercial, Joey Styles selling coins.
And then,
my God.
And then Luke's Peep Show would pop in every once in a while.
All right, folks. There's your insight for this week's retro wrestling.
Sorry.
Only here on WrestleCopia. I know they're proud to have us.
Glad to be here, guys. Glad to be here.
Make y'all proud, man.
So after, and I'm so over these segments, guys. I mean, let's enough of this shit already.
You won't call it a show? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying these Jeff Jarrett segments.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Richard's always just sitting on ready to end this fucking thing. BT's just waiting for you to
roll them credits, Gene. Let's get this thing over.
BT's like, you just say the word when he quits, I'm in there. So fourth match, the fabulous one, Jeff Jarrett versus the Red Knight. Now check out this getup that Jeff's wearing this week.
Wow.
My goodness.
Ooh.
It's a little more elaborate as the weeks go on.
I wonder if WWE made that one, because that looks right more down their alley.
I just wasn't a fan of this Jeff Jarrett, this look. Like, I was a fan of 93 Jeff Jarrett with the crazy tights, you know, trying to compete with Lawler and stuff.
Yeah.
But this Jeff Jarrett, he's a little
Once
too
we started
tight.
getting all these different straps going different places and everything, and
I could just do without this
neck
getup.
suspenders.
It's not so fabulous in my opinion, but you know. So this match is just your basic Jeff Jarrett squash match. It's crazy. He's been literally using this for months, and that leaping DDT still looks just as awful as the first one we saw back in January. I mean, I know Richard takes it the most personal of everybody, but good Lord.
It's the easiest move to do. You just fall on your back.
He falls on his knee first.
Yes. He
does
goes
one of these things
to the side and down, and
it's that back slap thing that he does when he's coming down. That's what it is. Somebody's like, did he just hit me in the back of the neck? Ow.
That's so they know when to fall. Like, dude, you're flying through the air. They're coming down one way or the other. But he did get the pin before the Vampire Warrior does his inevitable run in to attack the challenger for his belt, because the champion's got heat with the challenger here apparently. But I don't know. Is this maybe some Randy Hales influence here, going like, hey, why don't we get a finish in before the guy runs in? What's it going to hurt to pin the Red Knight before the guy runs in? If he is, kudos to him, because good Lord, I don't know why we couldn't have been doing more of this where we at least get a finish and it's not hurting the guy. He's an enhancement guy. What does it matter if he gets?
Do we know who the Red Knight is? He looked like somebody. He had a good body. Obviously had some kind of weird gimmick going with the hearts on the side somewhere else, but he looked like somebody that could, same deal with head injury, homeboy. He had a great body. He could have been something, but maybe the Red Knight isn't ready for the big dance yet. That's why he was the Red Knight.
Could be. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't research the Red Knight, because I knew if I did, it was going to pull up the Red Knight from the Survivor Series. There'd be no way to distinguish him, so I didn't even try. But so the Warrior runs in, and he goes to attack Jeff, but Jeff cuts him off. But Luna's right behind him. She attacks Jeff, but then Miss Texas comes in. But much like when she ran into Sherry Martel, Jackie runs out all tough, then gets her ass handed to her by Luna. And then here comes the rest of Bert's boys, which then brings out the Moondogs, and they clear the ring. And the one Moondog hurls a freaking garbage can across the studio. I wish I would have got a clip of it. It was great. He's in the ring, and he overhand just hurls that thing right towards the curtain over there. I'm sure something got messed up in the process.
They're like, we're going to have to call Larry, man. This is some bullshit. Get him back in here.
Yeah, we are. It feels weird to have a set of Moondogs here that doesn't involve Larry Latham Moondog spot, but that's what we've got happening right now. And, last week we seen how many Moondog run-ins. Like every segment would end with Jeff and the Moondogs and Richard Lee running out there. So, we returned to a promo from Jeff and Richard Lee, speaking of the devil. And, Jeff and Richard Lee are talking while the Moondog make noises in the background. I watched it, but I couldn't really tell you what they said. But I'm sure Richard Lee said brother more times than Hulk Hogan in the process.
Well, brother, you don't have an issue. Look, I was so annoyed with this interview because they were so close to Corey Macklin's mic. I'm talking about the Moondogs being they. And throughout Richard Lee's promo, you couldn't tell what he was saying because all you heard was really fucking loud throughout the whole thing. So they need to step away from the desk, especially from the mic.
My grandmother used to make those same noises when she slept.
Sound like a deranged mother.
Yeah.
And somebody, I'm sure, gave them direction for that too. I just caught that hint of what you did there, Josh. I think we're gonna have to hear from Richard Lee as a guest one of these weeks here. Moving on, as soon as we get done hearing from Richard Lee and Jeff Jarrett, we get to hear from this lady, and of course, we got to have a clip of Miss Texas.
Miss Texas is right here.
Luna Vachon, you got just a little taste of what Miss Texas can do. Now, honey, if you feel froggy, you jump. Because Miss Texas is talking and you ain't walking. Now, you're supposed to be so tough. I'm tough, too. And I don't back down from no one. So if you feel...
Hey, here she comes. Luna.
You obviously know nothing of what stands before you. I, Luna Vachon, am the most dominant force in the world of female wrestling.
Hello! Hey. Come on, Luna! Oh, boy! Oh, my goodness. Look out, fans. Uh-oh, Dave. Here they go. Luna Vachon. From Luna Vachon, and Miss Texas doesn't take kindly to that. They're going at it right here on the floor. Yeah. Look out, though. Here comes Vampire Warrior. Don't need that. Come on, would ya? Cross Miss Texas up. Here comes Steph. Going out to the Vampire. Luna and Miss Texas on the floor. Here comes Bergstrom and Penrod. Roll back to the Moondogs on far behind. Yeah. Here they come. The Moondogs, Richard Lee, Jeff Jarrett, have cleaned him out of here once again. They're out of here.
Luna Vachon.
We were just,
my Lord.
She hurried up to talk to her. And she was like, I thought it was fixing to be just a bam. Something happened real quick, but it was like, oh, here it's at. Oh, let me tell you something.
They freaked out in the studio there. Oh, here she comes, God. Like it was like they were scared.
Man.
Like Debo was coming. Tuck your chain.
Exactly.
Why does like Josh and I talked about this? Do they clean those studio floors with Murphy's oil soap? Why is it the slickest thing known to man? Jeff came out there and almost busted in his ass making the save.
I was thinking that watching that. I was like, if we have learned nothing else from run-ins on TV5 wrestling, is that crate sole wrestling boots and studio floors that have been waxed do not go together. You go back through all the shows we've watched in '93, and at least once, if somebody comes running out during somebody's promo, they slide right past them on the way through and have to turn back around because Luna's punch was delayed because she thought she was going to get cut off by him hitting, and Jarrett just slides past the Vampire Warrior, then has to grab him, and so she hit this really awkward looking punch to Miss Jackie's stomach. But holy shit, they shoot spit right on each other. Like, I mean, you could see the spit come off, boom, hits Jackie. Jackie legit spits at Luna, and then she clocked the hell out of her. Like, holy shit!
Like her name was Brian Christopher.
And I had heard you swallowed, bitch. I don't know, man. Like, usually I would say if I had to come out and fight somebody on this show, it would never be the Moondogs. But I think I'd rather take my chances with the Moondogs than if I had to fight, like, Luna.
But, dude, you know, I was thinking through this whole thing, Luna's size complements Miss Texas's size.
Oh, yeah.
More so than Sherry Martel. Sherry Martel just looked like a bully out there beating the shit out of Miss Texas the whole time. But this turned out to be, it looked like it was a back and forth deal. You know, she let her get to sweep and start getting some good shots in before Vampire Warrior made the save. And like I say, both of them are really raw ass women wrestlers. They wrestle like guys. So this is a great match, man. More so than the one-sidedness of the Sherry Martel feud. So I'm really excited about this.
I almost wonder if they didn't have Luna come out during this promo because somebody in the back went, hey, Luna, when Miss Texas ran in, you pretty much ate her ass up the first time. You need to let her look, because things looked a lot more equal this go around than when she ran in to help Jeff. And she just, like I said, she got her ass owned there. But this time, like you say, it was back and forth. And I'm like, oh, I want to see this match, where the first time it was like, oh, shit, Miss Texas got messed up. So I'd like to think that somebody back there is paying attention now, whether that's Randy Hales or whomever it may be, that maybe that was the whole point of having her run out there, was to make that happen. But anyway, I'm excited for that match. It's not the big match, but it's a match that I would like to see. But we'll get to that segment. Let's not be a spoiler. Main event, match number 5, the USWA Tag Team Champions, the principal, C.W. Bergstrom, and his A student, Melvin Penrod Jr., with Bert Prentice, take on Randy Rocket and Scott Taylor. So I remember enjoying the little bit of this match we got between these two teams a while back before the interference happened. And son of a bitch, if the same thing doesn't happen again, we get about 3 or 4 minutes of a decent tag team match. Here comes Richard Lee, then the Moondogs, and then the match is stopped. And I don't know. What did y'all think about the match up to that point?
Yeah, it seemed like it was good. And, I was excited on getting to see Penrod more in the ring and just seeing him develop. It seemed like we're going in a good direction with him. He's just this crazy bipolar nerd that's massive. I love a good character. And Bergstrom and Penrod Jr. both, that's a great thing going. And then, just like you say, they cut it off with some stupid bullshit that's happened at least twice this show so far. So it's almost like we're reliving the same episode all over again from last week.
Yeah. And Randy Rocket and Scott Taylor are the most babyface tag team we've had in a while here. You know what I mean? Like, we've had people shoehorn into that position, like the Moondogs, and then a couple of weeks of Simply Divine as a babyface tag team. But like, these guys look like a 80s, 90s babyface tag team should look in Memphis wrestling. And we're just not giving them a chance to shine at all. Every time we start to see what they can do, it gets cut off like it was here. I see that look on Richard's face. I'm going to let him speak here, because I know he's the only one on this show who isn't a fan of the whole Bergstrom and Penrod thing. And I can see it physically pains him every time we put it.
I was just going to my happy place. That's what I'm supposed to do when I hear trauma. I'm not a fan. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm a tubby guy that, all I had to do was, I looked like this man.
Oh, I get it. I am Melvin.
I am him. That's me in 5th grade.
I get it.
And I hate everything. It's like when I go and look at an old yearbook, and I'm like, what the hell? I didn't know it was picture day that day. And I just wore some kind of weird shirt. And now it's in the yearbooks forever. That's just the way I think about it. So every time I see him, I'm like, this is not believable. It looks like he should be getting his ass whipped or making jokes because he's insecure about himself. One of the two.
I should have saved it. We did get a promo from him last week. I hate you missed that. I should have saved it on here and could have run it when it was only like 30 seconds, but it was exactly the promo you thought you would get from Melvin Penrod.
You remember whenever the take it home and sit on it thing happened?
Yeah.
What he did after he got off the bike?
Yeah.
That's literally what Melvin Penrod Jr. did.
Did you tell the story?
No.
Okay, so nobody here knows.
Well, you get it, though, and that's what counts. And if they want to get it, they can go listen to P3 Radio.
P3 Radio.
We've told that story at least twice on that podcast.
Go back and find it.
Good luck finding it. It's literally a needle in a haystack.
You don't get shaved?
Motherfucker.
Oh, boy.
All right, so let's take our last podcast commercial break, and then we'll run down the card for Monday night at Mid-South Coliseum, which, if you're going to be the undercard for Bret, Hart, and Jerry Lawler, they're going to have to bring it this week compared to what some of the recent weeks have been. So let's check out this commercial, and we'll be right back.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/wrestlepod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up and coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
All right, we want to thank WrestleCopia for being a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. And on the commercial bumper, we had to go back and see Miss Simpson in happier times. It's sad to see her all bummed out and crying on here, so we had to go back and remember a happier place when she was out there shaking her ass on TV.
That's funny. A woman happier when she was a maid cleaning up stuff, huh? Imagine that.
Kind of tells you something, don't it? You know how good she had it. But anyway, before we get any hate mail from the one woman.
Let me get that mask back on over here.
Let's check out the card for this Monday night for the big match.
Big match, which will feature Scott Taylor going against Jamie Dundee. Opener. Yeah, that's right. JC Ice. Then you got Randy Rocket going against Kelly Wolf, the other of PG-13. The middleweight title will be at stake as Danny Davis will be in to go against the Disco Inferno.
Should be a good bout there, too.
A ladies' match.
Oh, boy.
Look out, Miss Texas.
Miss Texas has a handful down there Monday. This Luna Vachon she just goes berserk out here, doesn't she?
Man, and all the strange, scary presence of Luna Vachon from the dark side going against Ms. Texas, who doesn't back up from anybody, and I tell you what, she's not going to back up from Luna Vachon either. The USWA Tag titles will be on the line. Yep, Principal C.W. Bergstrom is A student Melvin Penrod Jr. and Bert Prentice will be in the corner going against the Moondogs with Richard Lee. Look out, Mid-South Coliseum. Here they come, and the USWA Tag titles will be on the line. The grudge match comes up after that one.
Talk about a great bout last Monday night. These two went at it for a long time, and they're still not through.
And you're exactly right. It still isn't settled, as you've been able to see here today. Brian Christopher against gentleman Chris Adams. What about Miss Simpson? Will she still be with Brian Christopher, or will Toni Adams be with Chris Adams when all is said and done? We'll find out. No time limit, no disqualification grudge match Monday night at the Coliseum. The Southern USWA heavyweight title will be on the line. Jeff Jarrett will be going against the Vampire Warrior. Vampire Warrior and Bert Prentice stole the belt. That's the only way it is. They stole the belt.
Yeah.
Then the Vampire Warrior in a match ends up getting the victory, but not to the satisfaction of most wrestling fans. Jeff Jarrett, the fabulous one, will be looking to take the belt back, put it around his waist where many wrestling fans of the USWA and all across America feel that it rightly belongs. Then, the big match. We've been talking about it all day. Bret, the Hitman Hart, says he's coming in, and Jerry Lawler is going to be ancient history. How many times have we seen big-name wrestlers come to the Mid-South Coliseum and say, your king is about to be history?
Did Corey Macklin say that Luna Vachon went berserk out there earlier?
Berserk.
He just went berserk.
It was ridiculous.
And we were discussing, why the hell was Vampire Warrior so damn tan?
Yeah, he's the tannest vampire I've ever seen.
That's always bothered me, if I'm being honest. Definitely.
Yeah. He's not so much as a vampire. He's the warrior that does day shit.
Yeah.
He's the vampires with a damn comma or apostrophe warrior.
There's no logical way to explain a suntanned vampire. You just can't do it. So
no, that looked terrible. He was the most tan man on the card.
Yeah.
He was
the dark, like Sheamus if you're going to be
a vampire. Yeah.
So it's time to answer those questions, guys, that I ask every week. So having watched today's episode, what was your least favorite part of today's show?
Melvin Penrod. I'm just not a fan. That whole segment, I just kind of skimmed it, to be honest with you. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And that's saying something for a show that included the Moondogs. And now they're both in a segment with them. Nah, that's it for me. Can't do it.
So mine, I'm pretty sure I've had this complaint before, but we've got all of these good tag teams that's returned, and we've obviously got the manpower to have enough good wrestlers. And when I say good wrestlers, I'm not disparaging the merits of the other wrestlers that I'm going to talk about, but they're just not to that point. If we've got all this talent that's got back to the USWA now, why did we have it seem like just good, decent talent versus enhancement talent? We had that like 4 or 5 times. And we were on the trend of we were going to have at least one standout, just barn burner of a match. We were on that trend for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And then that fizzled out quicker than a fucking bottle rocket. So I'm not understanding like why we're approaching it this way. But I'll take it if we're going to get some actual decisions at the end of matches. But I miss the barn burners on TV.
Oh yeah, no doubt. My least favorite part of the show, hands down, was the hockey player and Jeff Jarrett. Just didn't need it. All right, so what was your most favorite part of this week's show?
What's funny? The interviews, and I know you said it was your least favorite, but I loved the Bret Hart interview and the hockey player interview just for the wrong reasons. Yeah. Just because I laughed so hard at watching the hockey interview and Bret trying to do the Southern thing and just failing miserably. Those were my favorite parts of the show. It shouldn't have been, but because it was terrible. It was god awful. But I laughed so hard at the hockey players thing that I was like, I should have to pay them a fee, like a comedy club, because they give me so much joy with this one thing.
And it made you want to go see Slapshot after.
Yeah. Well, I did. I watched half the fucking movie on the interview.
Fair. That was fair.
Oh, that was like a 13-year-old movie at that point, too. Why was that even relevant?
Yeah, that'd be like us bringing up Heat.
Yeah,
with Al Pacino, and then
that's going to be the Saturday night movie on WMC after the news goes off. They're going to show Slapshot
What was it that they used to do on Family Guy where it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway Twitty. And they would play. That's what they did here, unironically.
Everybody likes Slapshot. Everybody likes it. We didn't get to mention this. I hate to interrupt on your segment, but Dave Brown putting over hockey for like 3 minutes after that segment. That was really weird. He was like, "No, that takes some skill, I'm telling you." And then he just went on
wrestling shit.
He went on to talk about hockey for like 2 minutes.
I don't know what's slicker, the ice down there at the Mid-South Coliseum or the studio floor.
You can walk on the studio floor, or you can play hockey. Corey just looks completely unamused by any of it. Like, I don't give a damn about hockey. Shut the hell up, Dave.
That's why Jeff didn't have any kind of qualms with doing the hockey thing. He's like, hey, I've been on that studio floor. I think I can handle the ice rink.
Oh my God. So
Did
my
you know what your favorite part was? Okay.
No, I didn't.
No, go ahead.
My
Josh.
favorite was the Chris Adams and Brian Christopher, Toni Adams, Simpson confrontation. Like, you know, for as bad as it is and misguided as it is to this point, I feel like there's so much room for this sumbitch to blossom and be really good. And if they work it right, you know, and they can wrangle Chris Adams in a way to just do what they want him to do, opposed to what he thinks he should do, it'll be great. So, yeah, I'm excited for the next show to see how this plays out and if it is going to be a thing moving forward.
And looking at this from an outside perspective, beyond just a fan watching the show, if you take Chris Adams' experience in the business at this point in '93, he'd been a top star in Texas, the feud with the Von Erichs, the tag team with Gino Hernandez. It was very beneficial for Brian Christopher at this stage in his career to feud with a guy the stature of Chris Adams, the things he could learn, and just the putting it in the magazines that he's feuding with a guy the level of Chris Adams. Just it helped Brian overall. I remember being a kid and not getting to see, you know, different places at different times, but when you'd see some of the people who were there and see who, you know, who was feuding with who, you think, oh, they're wrestling that guy. That guy's a big deal. So I'm sure people in magazines reading who couldn't see Memphis and didn't know who Brian Christopher necessarily was like, oh, he's feuding Chris Adams. He's banging his wife. He must be a pretty big deal. You know, of course, that wasn't necessarily an exclusive club, but anyway, Brian pointed out to me this week that we got sidetracked on last week's show, and I don't think I ever circled back and asked you guys, would you buy a ticket to last week's show? So I'll make sure I get this in this week. If this was 1993, would today's TV have inspired you to go buy a ticket to Monday night's card to see the big match?
Yeah, I probably would have went just because I was a huge WWE fan. Bret Hart coming in was a big deal. And, you know, they've built up the undercard, too, with Vampire Warrior and Luna and all. You know, I might go take a piss during the Penrod Moondogs match. But yeah, everything else, I wouldn't mind seeing it. So yeah, I'm gonna buy a ticket.
So I got a little insight or insider information on this. I actually did go to this show because Eddie Marlin called me and he was like, "Make sure you ride with Uncle Danny to the show so he gets his ass to the show." But yeah, I was just making that joke. I didn't go to that show. I did not go to that show, but I would go to this show because, like Richard Lee pointed out, Bret Hart coming in, but it's Bret Hart under another lens that you don't get to see. It's a different Bret Hart coming in, so I'm extra excited to go. Plus, I have to see what happens with Chris Adams and Brian Christopher. And obviously, I want to see if Uncle Danny's going to keep that middleweight belt that he holds so dear or precious. You know, it's his precious. I got to see how that pans out. And whether you like it or not, I want to see CW Bergstrom and Melvin Penrod retain the titles. So, yes, I'm definitely going.
Yeah, he's such a downer on our favorite tag team. It's depressing. But so, yeah, we're going to go over the results of Monday night's card. And then we're going to bring on our special guest that producer Smokey has wrangled up, who says he should be able to give us some insight on one of the matches here. So that should be interesting. So August 2nd, 1993, the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis. 2,800 people were inspired to come see the big match for a $17,000 gate. This would be the biggest crowd we've drawn in quite some time. Opening match would see Jamie Dundee beat Scott Taylor. The second match would see Kelly Wolfie D, beat Randy Rocket. In the third match, the USWA middleweight champion Nightmare Danny Davis showed up and he beat the Disco Inferno.
Yes. Take that
In the
memo.
fourth match, Luna Vachon beat Miss Texas to win the USWA women's title that we haven't mentioned in I don't know when. I forgot it existed, but that's the way it's listed in these results that I've got. It says Luna Vachon beat Miss Texas to win the USWA women's title. It'd be interesting to see if that gets mentioned on TV next week.
Maybe it's like a belt buckle or something.
Could be. I don't know, but I guess we're wanting to drive home trying to have all these belts in Bert Prentice's stable, but by God, Disco wasn't going to get Uncle Danny's belt. I'm sure that was a condition to get him there that week. The Moondogs, Spike and Cujo. Last week I asked the question: was this just a drop in for them? They needed a babyface tag team because Simply Divine was out of pocket. The Moondogs, Spike and Cujo beat C.W. Bergstrom and Melvin Penrod Jr. to win the USWA Tag Team titles. So clearly they are going to be sticking around for a bit. In the sixth match, Brian Christopher pinned Gentleman Chris Adams in 8 minutes and 54 seconds. In the seventh match, Jeff Jarrett beat the USWA Southern Heavyweight Champion, the Vampire Warrior, by disqualification in 11 minutes, 28 seconds. And then in the main event, the Unified Heavyweight Champion, Jerry the King Lawler, fought Bret the Hitman Hart to a double disqualification in 23 minutes and 46 seconds. So there you go. There is our big event, 2,800 fans. And so a little surprise for you guys. We've got, apparently, producer Smokey said this is a big surprise for Josh. He has wrangled Uncle Danny.
Sorry, I got my phone ringing right now. I'm gonna have to bag on out.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, man, take care of that. I know it's a big deal. Well, this sucks, man. Apparently, Richard, Danny Davis, producer Smokey's got Danny Davis is going to come on the show. I can't wait to ask him what made him decide to finally show up this week to the Mid-South Coliseum, and defend his title against Disco Inferno. I was hoping Josh would be here to be kind of fun to see some interaction, with Josh and Uncle Danny. Hey, Smokey, let's go ahead and get maybe Josh will wrap up the phone call. He can come in towards the end of this, but I know Danny Davis has been watching. He watched the USWA episode. He's been watching this one, is what Smokey told me. He's been watching the show as we've been recording. So let's get Danny Davis on the show here, Smokey. Smokey, that's not Nightmare. That's not Uncle Danny. That's not Nightmare Danny Davis. You got Dangerous Danny Davis, Smokey.
Oh no,
he's not going to have any insight.
So you guys don't want me here? Is that what you're doing? I got to get my mouth right.
I mean, it's not that we don't want you here. I mean, did you watch the show?
You mean when it happened, or this show that you guys have been trying to do?
Just any show. We've got you here now. We need to talk about something. So did you watch Slapshot? I don't know. I mean,
I actually went to the movies back. Do you know how much I paid to get into Slapshot back then? 50 cents. The ticket was 50. Isn't it not crazy, the inflation these days? My God. I'm on Social Security now. I can barely afford to live. I eat insulation.
I've heard that about you, actually. So, folks, if you're listening to the audio version of this, producer Smokey was supposed to get Uncle Nightmare Danny Davis. He's new. He ain't been around in a while.
So,
he's been away. We got Dangerous Danny Davis here. So
I could understand my name would probably be in the phone book next to his. Simple mistake, but can I say this? I feel like I'm the best Danny Davis. I'm the best one you've had so far on this show. I know an older lady that would agree with me.
Yeah.
An older lady. from that area. Just
would.
absolute best Danny Davis that's here. Let me ask you this. How many nightmares have main evented Saturday night's main event? How many's done that? Zero. Well, it's been a nightmare for some, but not for Danny Davis nightmare with the star and such. I did watch this show. I just want to tell you, I watched you guys and what you reviewed and such, and I've been watching this show for the past few weeks, trying to freshen up on this. I knew I was going to be a guest on this show. Your producer there, Smokey, great gentleman, very accommodating. I just want to notice something to let you know what I noticed, because I noticed it and it was standing out like a sore thumb there, Gene. Your referees in the USWA are extremely odd. You got the one naked ref, what's his name, Paul Neighbors.
Yes.
He gets nude and he does these interviews in his woodshed. That's really weird. And he gives off the serial killer vibe or something. It's really weird. And then you got Frank Morrell. He has got to be 84 years old. That is insane. That Sleepy County does. You want a real ref, you need to hire Dangerous Danny Davis. That's who you need for the ref.
I love how he's saying these refs are weird while he has a nose come out of his mouth.
Yeah, I mean,
so weird.
Yeah, you like that goatee I got now?
I was gonna say it's you shaved it a little high up on your chin though, but
Yeah, I acquired it sitting in the green room waiting for the show to start.
Oh,
he tans with a respirator on, apparently.
I just want to tell you guys, there's no better ref than me. Call it right down the middle, very trustworthy individual. And I really got a problem with what you guys do here. I just want you to know that. Every one of you guys, that Josh character especially, but each one of you critique the wrestlers and you act like you got this big sense of entitlement or something that you say actually means something. And you've never been where I've been. You've never drank from the same cups as me. And people like me and Jimmy Hart and all of them, Steve Lombardi, lots of great talent.
If you're eating insulation, I feel like if we were visiting your house, we'd only have one cup.
But I just feel like, you guys got some interesting opinions that necessarily are kind of out of touch. You need to get some good guys in there, like Barry O. You remember Barry O? He's a great guy, great wrestler. Barry O.
Donahue one time.
You remember what was his name? Murray?
Yeah, Murray Hodgkin or some such. I don't remember.
Yeah, he was the best announcer that we had. Till Pat ran him off. I don't believe it.
Already helped with the ring crew or hindered the ring crew one. I don't remember.
You need a great announcer, Mel Phillips. Great guy.
Mel Phillips, that's who I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Golden voice. But better than that Corey Macklin you got going on there. Hey,
that's ridiculous now. You don't criticize. You do a lot of things in this show, but you don't criticize Corey Macklin in there.
You crossed the line, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, guys, I just wanted to tell you my grievances, and I'm gonna get on out of here.
Whoa! Before you go, Danny, we need a favor.
Go ahead.
I want to see if you're going to be
I thought
Team
the favor was me being on this show.
Well, while you're here, I want to see if you're Team Richard, if you're Team Gene and Josh on this. You watched this show. You said you've been watching for a few weeks, right?
Yes.
Where are you on Principal C.W. Bergstrom, Melvin Penrod Jr., the A student? You a fan? You not a fan? What do you think?
I absolutely love it. I just want to let you know I went to school with C.W. Bergstrom. He was a great guy, sports. He was a great athlete. He was almost as many accomplishments as Jeff Gaylord. Almost. He's his receipt is only about half full comparable to Jeff Gaylord's. But excellent guy, trustworthy guy. I sent my kids to his school.
All right. Now, one last thing before we let you go here. If Josh were here, I'm sure he would be defending him right now. So I feel like I have to step up in his place. You made some disparaging remarks about Nightmare Danny Davis and how you're the best Danny Davis, and you were at Saturday Night's Main Event, WrestleMania.
The real Danny Davis, yes.
Oh, how many Camaros did you win in your career, Mr. Davis?
Well, I mean, I bought one or two, but that was just from some checks I got after the Survivor Series and Royal Rumble paychecks.
I assume you're still driving one of those, right?
Absolutely. It's a 78 Camaro. If you know how to turn a wrench, you can keep them alive for a long time.
And I imagine you do, right? You're pretty handy with a wrench.
You know a guy named Jerry Turman? He was actually he's where I get all my cigarettes from, but he knows how to rebuild motors, and he actually rebuilt the motor in there for the last time.
Wow. Jerry Turman. Glowing review of Mr. Jerry Turman. So before you go, one last thing. Are you going to recommend people to watch the Retro Wrestling Review here on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network? Or
well, if you pay me enough, I will. But just for free? Absolutely not. You guys got your head up your ass. You think you know everything and you criticize everybody, but you don't know shit. You don't know what people like me know, and you've ever kissed the asses that I've kissed to get where I am and where I've been, and you see where it got me, in a woodshed full of insulation.
Well, I hope Paul Neighbors shows up in that woodshed and takes you out Dexter style. All right, here, spoiler alert. We'll be Brian Trammell. Spoiler alert. Get the fuck out of here. You're not coming back on this show again. You got to go. You don't
up your nose with a rubber hose.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh. Are you back?
You can just sit down. You don't have to get up.
Yes. That phone call. My God. Very important
you
stuff.
lucked out.
What did you
Uncle
find out?
Danny show up?
Well, kind of. What did you do?
Not exactly.
What about the phone call? Did they say what was wrong with your taint, or is it?
It was just a rash.
Okay, cool.
It was not a spot that needs to be lanced off.
We got those pictures. We'll show you, Gene. It's okay.
No, I'm good. I'll take your word for it. Yeah. So Producer Smokey, and again, folks, if you want to see who Producer Smokey is, Facebook.com/Smokey the producer. That's how that goes. So he told me he wanted to book your uncle. I told him to look up Danny Davis. He did get Danny Davis, except he got Dangerous Danny Davis. That was not Uncle Nightmare Danny Davis.
The bad Danny Davis.
Yeah, the bad Danny Davis. And he said some pretty disparaging things about your uncle. If you'd have been there, I'm afraid it would have got pretty heated. Might have got ugly, honestly.
Yeah, we got some history with that guy, but
he would have loved your beard, by the way.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he would have liked it. I mean, I don't think you can give Smokey the L on this one. He did come through with Danny Davis.
Yeah, I mean it's not his fault. He didn't grow up on Memphis wrestling. He's a young man. He doesn't know from one Danny Davis from the other, right? Now I will say this: one good thing that come out of this, Josh. I did pin him down on one thing. He agreed with you and I. He thinks that Melvin Penrod and C.W. Bergstrom are tremendous. I think he went to school. What did he say? He went to school with Bergstrom?
Yeah.
Richard?
Holy shit.
Said his kids went to their school.
That's awesome. Like, I guess he's maybe not such a bad guy.
Yeah. So now that no less of an expert than Dangerous Danny Davis agreed with us, we're right, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, plus we got BT on our side, and everybody knows he's the foremost expert on professional wrestling.
Especially Memphis wrestling.
Especially Memphis. Nobody knows more about Memphis wrestling than Brian Trammell. I can't think of a podcast that you could check out a couple of times a week that could tell you more about Memphis wrestling than BT.
I feel like y'all justifying that this is good because the people that you say justify that it's good is like saying, I'm a good manager. I take all my tips from dictators.
Hey, whatever works.
Are you comparing Dangerous Danny Davis and Brian Trammell to dictators?
In this scenario, yes.
With a capital dick.
Not so much the political move, but just, taters that are shaped like dicks.
All right, folks, before we get out of here, I forgot this segment last week, but since we got a moment, we're going to go ahead and we're going to see what's bumming Dave out. Now, if you see the Patreon show, the Hot Mics post-game show, if you're a patron on our Patreon at patreon.com/retro wrestling archive, then you already know. But if you didn't, and a lot of you don't, if you're watching this right now, this is what's bumming Dave out. If you're not watching, then you have to go find it on video because we're not going to describe what you're seeing right now.
No closed captions.
No closed captionings. No description. It's just a little teaser to get you to check out the video cast over on the YouTube channel, Wrestling Memory Grenade YouTube channel.
Like somebody forgot the picture wasn't up. Started doing a voice there.
We may have to see if we can get him on the show next week to tell us a little bit about this picture and about some fun times.
The insides and the outs of it.
Yeah, I'm sure he can tell us all about the insides. And that made Mickey Gilly make this face.
Them boys need to quit talking like that.
Was he listening to Jeff play the piano?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was me.
Jeff, I'm gonna have to piss on this parade, man. I done seen Slapshot.
Jeff just carrying around a copy of Slapshot to all of his interviews.
I wish that's what this segment was every week. It's like Jeff sells Slapshot to different celebrities. Have you seen Slapshot? It's kind of like the fake Dr. Phil asking everybody if they've seen Oppenheimer. Anyway. All right, so before we go, guys, what can we expect on this week's P3 radio? Because someone was going to send me a report, but he was pissed off because it hasn't been posted yet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, man. That is the question. We haven't made it yet, so we don't know what we're going to say. Once we end this podcast, we're going to go into it. And
safe to say, we'll talk about penises of some kind. I mean, I've been on a boat, and then this week I had like we talked about it before the show. I'm on like 5 hours of sleep because we had black time boxing last night in Jackson that went until about midnight, by the time I got home, a little after. But black time boxing was they raised over $200,000.
Holy shit.
For the Star Center here in Jackson. It's a great event every year. Like I said, it's the production of it. If you have time, look up, I think it's Black Time Boxing. It's a Knuckle Sandwich podcast on YouTube, and look at some of the production that went into that. It was almost like a freaking UFC show. But yeah, it's a great cause. If you want to donate for the Star Center, you don't have to, but if you want to, it's a great cause. So, because of all of that, just to say, that's the reason why we hadn't recorded a show, because it's been crazy, and it snowed here Friday. So it's been crazy, but yeah, we're going to have one out here in the next hour or two.
All right, there you go. We can't tell you what it is because it hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure Richard has a ton of fun stories about the cruise, about the snow this week, and the fight last night, and the money raised. And I'm sure Josh has encountered some shenanigans in the past week as well. So make sure you check that out. P3 Radio, wherever you enjoy podcasts. For all things related to this show, you can check out USWApodcast.com. You can find a link to the Facebook page, to the store where you can get t-shirts and hats and posters and whatever the hell you want with our logo on it, and plus some of our other fun stuff. There's a Moondog shirt. There's I'm blanking out on what else. But anyway, there's various shirts and merchandise there.
Master Mike Miller?
Yeah, there's a Mike Miller one. I mean, how could you not want that, right? Master of Terra. That's the one I was trying to think of, honestly. Also, check out all the great podcasts over at WrestleCopia.com. They got some new ones starting up over there. All your favorites, along with the new podcast where they are looking into the 1977 War for Memphis between Jerry Jarrett and Nick Goulas. Very interesting show. They're breaking that down week by week from 1977, plus a new show covering California wrestling out in Los Angeles. A lot of good
wow.
stuff going on at WrestleCopia.com. So make sure you go there, check out all of them, because while you're there, you can also check out Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich. For all things related to their podcast, you can go to DougGilbertPodcast.com. There's their Facebooks and Twitters, and then you got a store where you can get T-shirts, all kinds of great stuff at DougGilbertPodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review all these, the USWA podcast, P3 Radio, the Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich podcast, all that stuff. Make sure you leave us a rating. We'll appreciate it. Guys, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think
we're good, man.
We did it.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. The big match. And we'll have to see what they are going to follow that with next week, right here on the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast.